Welcome to The Explainer. So, think about the infrastructure of an entire nation. And no, I'm not talking about the physical bridges or the towering concrete buildings. I mean the invisible administrative machinery that actually keeps a modern country running securely and smoothly, day in and day out. Today, we're going to explore the absolutely fascinating story of the man who served as the architect for exactly that in the Maldives. His name is Murtala Muhammad Didi, and honestly, his life is a total masterclass in multidisciplinary leadership. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to think about who designed the national IDs sitting in your wallet right now? Or the machine-readable passports that literally millions of people rely on to cross borders every single day? I mean, who actually sets up the foundational data systems for an entire civil service? It's rarely just one person, but occasionally a single, incredibly visionary leader comes along whose fingerprints are on almost all of it. And that's exactly what Murtala did for the administrative backbone of the modern Maldives.
Part 1, Roots of Resilience. And this brilliantly illustrates his journey because his story begins with a pretty dramatic contrast. He came from a large blended family with deep roots in both Adu and Kolomafeshi. Now, that alone gave him an incredible early lesson in adaptability. But fast forward to a completely different environment. At the tender age of just 10 years old, he made this massive leap to the bustling capital of Mali. And get this, he wasn't just sent there to go to school. He actually supported himself through work while pursuing those studies. It's an incredibly early, bold leap right into independence.
He was the eldest son of Muhammad Musa Didi and Fatima Sakina. Now, being the eldest in any large family brings an immediate weight of responsibility, right? But bearing that kind of weight while navigating the immense everyday challenges of a brand new city at age 10, that's really something else entirely. Those early struggles in Mali didn't break him, though. Actually, they forged this lifelong resilience and an unshakable sense of responsibility that would absolutely define his professional life for the next 3 decades.
Let's move to Section 2, a global toolkit, and see how this builds over time.
Looking at his background, his incredibly broad, multidisciplinary toolkit is mapped out across a massive global footprint. We're talking Australia, Singapore, Japan, Malaysia, and of course the Maldives. And just notice the sheer diversity of those disciplines: business administration, disaster management, ICT management, corporate directorship, and even programming. He was out there gathering these highly specialized international skills, like learning computing and intelligence systems in Japan, and then studying top-level governance way down in Australia. It's a remarkably rare combination of technology, management, and public policy all rolled into one.
But out of all those global stops, one was particularly pivotal. His public administration studies in Singapore really strengthened his expertise in civil service structures. And if you think about it, Singapore is globally renowned for its meticulously efficient public administration. So, by absorbing those world-class methodologies firsthand, Murtala gained the exact structural blueprint he would later bring home to completely modernize Maldivian public sector governance.
Section 3. The Entrepreneurial Drive.
Man, he didn't just dip his toes into the commercial waters, he dove in headfirst. While he was still a student, he jumped right into the sprawling 1970s business empire of his prominent cousin. That's where he gained hands-on experience in retail and wholesale operations, travel and safari boat services, and even running cinemas. From there, he launched his very own ventures, expanding rapidly into tailoring, garment manufacturing, screen printing, and tourist retail operations. The sheer volume of these entrepreneurial endeavors just screams of a mind that is constantly analyzing markets, solving complex problems, and executing on a really massive scale. You can really see a clear, step-by-step evolution of his business mind here. Step 1 was local management, cutting his teeth on the ground in Malé. Then step 2 was entrepreneurial expansion, where he branched out to establish his own manufacturing and tourism businesses. And finally, step 3, Malaysian trade partnerships. He scaled all the way from local retail to forging long-term international commercial ties in Malaysia. He wasn't just importing and exporting goods, he was actively building cross-border networks and strengthening regional business relations. A real game changer for sure.
Moving into Section 4, Modernizing the Maldives.
This is where it all comes together. Over 3 decades, he systematically modernized the nation. In Decade 1, he introduced machine-readable passports, basically using his tech and immigration background to secure the nation's borders to strict international standards. Then, in Decade 2, he spearheaded the design and development of the national ID system. And let's be real, that is the fundamental bedrock of modern citizenship and governance.
Finally, Decade 3 brought the automation of civil service HR records. He took his programming and public administration knowledge and literally optimized the human resources of the entire government machinery. He systematically dragged the country's administration right into the digital age.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the number 8. Murthala wasn't just some technocrat working quietly behind a computer screen somewhere. No, he spent 8 critical years shaping national economic policy on the Business Council. He brought his vast, hard-earned experience in international trade and local retail directly into the boardroom, right where the country's corporate future was being actively decided. And then there is the number 2. He provided elite financial governance by serving 2 full terms as the acting chair of the Bank of Maldives, where he also sat on key board committees. I mean, this represents the absolute pinnacle of corporate trust and leadership. He successfully navigated civil aviation, border control, disaster management, and top-tier banking. It is such a rare, genuinely multidisciplinary perspective that very, very few national leaders ever achieve.
Which brings us to Section 5, a lasting legacy.
His is a legacy built on resilience, integrity, and a deep, unwavering commitment to public service. But, beyond the massive administrative reforms and the major advancements in national disaster preparedness, Murthala is also a dedicated family man. He's married and the father of 2 educated, independent sons. He lived the very values he engineered into the national systems: responsibility, independence, and forward-thinking preparation. His multidisciplinary work didn't just update a bunch of old government files, it permanently strengthened the very foundations of modern public administration in the Maldives.
So, the crucial point is this. Every single time a citizen uses their national ID or travels safely on a secure, machine-readable passport, or relies on a well-organized civil service during a national disaster, they are directly experiencing the invisible infrastructure built by Murtha Mohammed Didi. It's an incredibly inspiring legacy of public service that really begs the question on our final slide today: what invisible foundations are you building for the next generation? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. I really hope you found his story as fascinating as I did. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll catch you next time.